Lennox Lewis has chimed in, and he said that even if Tyson Fury beats Usyk, he's still got 2 more boxes to tick afterwards to prove himself the best fighter of his generation. And he kind of backs up what he says here with a pretty solid argument based on what he did in his own career. So he said here, I aim to be the #1 guy in the division in sport. Everything I did was leading up to this point. I wanted to be Olympic champion, so I went back twice to the Olympics. I wanted to be British champion. I wanted to be European champion. I wanted to be world champion. And my last thing was undisputed champion. Once I was undisputed champion, I could rest. I even waited for Mike Tyson, so there will be no argument about who will be the best in this era. I didn't want anyone to be sitting in the barbers having an argument saying who was the best, Tyson, Holyfield, or Lewis. I ended my career showing the whole world that I am the best of that era. When you get 2 great fighters and put them together, even in one fight you don't get the full package. You need 2 full fights, unless one guy goes out there and knocks him out in the first 2 rounds. But if it is a fight that lasts the full 12 rounds and we are seeing some great boxing and great fighting and great tactics being used, then we would love to see it again, to see if the other guy wasn't right, didn't do the right thing, or if there is a way for him to come back. Firstly, Lennox Lewis says that unless Tyson Fury destroys Usyk the first time, they're going to need to run it back. If it's a tight fight, a competitive fight, a close fight, a good fight, to see once and for all who the man is. Just like Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield ran it back, right? Just like Holyfield and Tyson ran it back. I mean, personally, I didn't see the need for Holyfield and Tyson to run it back, but there were so many people that had such belief in Mike Tyson. They wanted to believe that the Buster Douglas thing was a fluke, and they had the same mentality when Holyfield beat Tyson. Oh, it's a fluke. He'll come back and destroy him. That's why the rematch was even bigger. Anyway, Lennox Lewis thinks unless Fury blows Usyk out the water, they're going to need to run it back. And he also thinks that Fury's going to need to fight Anthony Joshua, even if he beats Usyk, in order to be recognized as the best of his era. And so here's what he says about it. He says he does need to fight him as an AJ because it's a British thing. I'm sure the British fans want to see that matchup. Throughout history, that has always been the plan. There's always a big British fight between 2 enormous heavyweights. I'm sure there are a lot of people saying, especially after Joshua's win over Ngannou, what about Anthony's right hand? It's back, and he looked great. But you know, the kind of boxer Ngannou is not the same boxer Fury is. When you look at the 1-2 that finished Ngannou, is that going to hit Tyson Fury? Maybe not in the first couple rounds, maybe in the last couple rounds. You never know how the fight will go. You've got 2 different styles that are going to clash, and everybody is wondering what is going to happen, and the only way to find out is if they fight. So those are the words of Lennox Lewis, and I have to agree, because when Lennox Lewis was fighting, he became undisputed, but there was still this question mark about Mike Tyson. Oh yeah, he beat Holyfield, he beat all these other guys, but what about Mike Tyson? And Mike Tyson was far more diminished by the time he fought Lennox Lewis than Anthony Joshua is. So if Lewis was basically obliged by the fans to fight Mike Tyson to prove himself the best of the generation, then why wouldn't Tyson Fury be obliged to do the same? And I said this in a video I did a few days ago, last week, whenever it was. If Fury can beat Usyk, he deserves to call himself the #1 heavyweight. He will have proven himself to be the #1 heavyweight in the division with all the belts, right? The man who beat the man. But there would be that last loose end to tie up to prove himself the best in his era. And that would be Anthony Joshua. The only way that he wouldn't need to fight AJ is if AJ gets himself beat in the meantime. If AJ goes off and fights, let's say, the winner of Hrgovic Dubois and gets chinned or just loses the fight, then yeah, after that, there's no need for Tyson Fury to be fighting Anthony Joshua, in my view. But if AJ either doesn't fight before then or gets a win in the meantime, then that's a loose end that Tyson Fury's got to tie up. We're not going to do this thing of bringing the bar down to accommodate Tyson Fury's shallow resume. We're not going to do that. Whoever wins this undisputed fight, if they want to be recognized as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, they need to go on a run. I'm not talking about going outside with your running shoes on. I'm talking about having a lot of wins as heavyweight champion, defending the belts, facing loads of mandatories. This will be what? Tyson Fury's 7th world title fight against Usyk, 7th or 8th? I think 7th. Lennox Lewis had 17 world title fights. Mike Tyson had 16. Muhammad Ali had about 25. Joe Louis had 20 odd. So if you want to be recognized as one of the greatest of all time, you're going to need to have that type of longevity, that type of depth of resume. And this is one of the reasons that Fury will need to tie up that loose end with AJ, that one final domino if he can beat Usyk. Because AJ did have a long run as a champion. Two-time heavyweight champion. How many title fights did AJ have? Like 10, 11 maybe? So yeah, I agree with Lennox Lewis in this instance. And they've got a rematch clause anyway, Usyk and Fury between them. So if it is close, perhaps the rematch will happen. And then again, as long as AJ doesn't take a loss in the meantime, that's the final hurdle for him to prove himself best of his generation. But beyond best of his generation, gonna need to do a lot more. Think about it, folks. Why would we bring the bar down for Tyson Fury to step over it? How does that even make sense? If these champions of the past set the bar really high, why would we not expect Tyson Fury to get over that high bar if he's gonna call himself one of the greats or the greatest of all time? Like, what is that all about? Fanboy stuff. Anyway, the Usyk fight hasn't happened. Remains to be seen who the winner's gonna be. So all this talk about it's inevitable, give it a rest. Let's show Usyk some respect. Let these guys fight. And whoever the winner is, then we can talk about the future for that guy. Oh, and before I go, I just want to tell you about this video here, which I just uploaded to my Patreon page. It's a Usyk Fury film study where I analyze video footage from several of their fights in depth and point out various strengths and weaknesses which may be relevant to their fight against each other. It clocks in at just over an hour in length. It's been very well received by my current patrons. So if you want to access this video and hundreds of other Patreon exclusive uploads, just download the Patreon app from the Play Store or the App Store, then head on over to my Patreon page and sign up for the boxing tier, which is called the Boxing Brotherhood. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. We've also got a members chat group over there and whatnot. So yeah, come join us.